So hi everybody. So I had the pleasure of coming to Israel this fall and working with some amazing actors, and I have to say it was part of a 6-week tour that I did. And thank God I went when I did, because you can't go anywhere now. But I taught in Spain and Italy and Turkey, Belgium, and Israel, and I didn't know what to expect from going to Israel. And I have to say, I fell in love. The people, you guys are amazing people, your energy, it's beautiful there. And I left with such wonderful memories, and I hope to come back soon, whenever that is. But yeah, so I've been in casting since 2003. My career before that was actually a professional opera singer. So I sang all around the United States for about 10 years professionally. And then I took a break from it. I was working a lot, and it never quite called me back. So I was just sort of working in New York and feeling like I wanted to do something artistic, but I didn't necessarily want to do opera again. And so a friend suggested that I might be good at casting. And so, like most of us, we start with an internship. So I went in with an internship at Judy Henderson Casting, and 2 weeks later, she hired me as her associate. So it moved very quickly for me. It's not a typical way to get into the industry, but I had a feeling that there was a reason why this was happening and that I should just take advantage of it. So I have been working with Judy since then. And as I'm sure most of you know, we worked and cast the series Homeland, which just wrapped up, I guess, last Sunday night.
Yes.
What is today? It's Wednesday, right? So not this past Sunday, I think the Sunday before. So that was really, really gratifying for me for the last 10 years. And then of course, coronavirus. So now a lot of us are working from home, teaching from home, which I'm grateful that I have the ability to do that online. And so that's really what's been keeping most of us busy at this time. Yeah. Did you have a question, Revi?
Just tell us a little bit about the audition scenes. What are you looking for? How an actor can get through it? Also talk about maybe selfie. How do you call it?
Self-tape? Self-tape?
Yes.
Self-tape, yeah, the self-tape.
Yeah, well, obviously everything is on a big pause right now. I was working on an Italian film trying to set an American actor for it, and obviously we're all on hold with that. There's some auditions happening. There's companies that are taking this time to have people do self-tapes just to kind of have a general sense of people out there that they don't know. And I've helped coach some people for their scenes, but I understand one company who requested that is going through about 60,000 tapes. That seems very overwhelming to me. But I still encourage people to self-tape if they're asked to, because at least they'll have them on a file somewhere when we reopen, so they'll have their work already. But in terms of casting right now, there are some people that are casting with the hope of shooting this summer. I personally think that's a little ambitious, but there's no harm in getting that process out of the way right before you shoot. Some of the big corporations like ABC, television corporations, they are thinking there might be some sort of resume in the fall, in September. But here again, these are just hopeful estimates. Nobody really knows. It's a little confusing here in the States because there's a lot of mixed messaging going on. As I'm sure you guys have followed, our president is ready to open up the country, but we're still seeing very, very high rates. The rate of the coronavirus has leveled off a little bit in New York because we got hit the hardest, but there's some states that took a long time to really adhere to self-distancing and such, and so they're seeing their rates rise right now. So it's a very precarious time here, but here again, I mean, I think we're all just trying to do a little bit of work toward our art every day, whether that's just coaching a scene or getting in a class, just to keep us, you know, keep our muscles moving so that when we do resume, you know, it won't be like we haven't been to the gym in 6 months and we have to, you know, get off on the ground running.
Yeah.
So,
Tell
so
us, but
here.
But I think what we would like really to hear is what is actually the process of casting directors, of audition. What does the actor need to do for an audition? What, maybe afterwards talk a little bit about show reels, what to do, and you know, the scene here and in the state. How do we cope? Because we all are, they are all actors here, and I'm sure that all of them, that's why they're coming to hear you. They have these ambitious desires, and hopefully look at them very well, because maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of them will be, you know, our Gal Gadot.
Well, you know, prior to all this happening, I mean, you know, a lot of self-taping is happening. I think we've seen that more in the last couple of years. Actually, with Homeland, I was having a lot of self-tapes from actors before it kind of got popular. Not really because I wanted to. It's always best to be in the room. That's what we, when we get our best work done. But because of the, like, the nature of our show, we, you know, literally shot all over the world. Sometimes it just required us to be in New York and have people tape in Morocco or Germany or, you know, wherever we could find our actors. And so when we would, through our process, we would post a breakdown of what we're looking for to our agents and managers. If I was looking for somebody in Europe, I used mostly Spotlight to post our breakdowns and reach
Just a second. Do you know Spotlight, Chevre?
No.
So maybe tell us.
Yeah, so Spotlight is like, it's the equivalent to breakdown services in the States. It's a place where you as an actor can put your picture, your CV, your reel on there. We can go and do searches if we're looking for something particular. A lot of agents and managers pay for the service so that they can submit their clients on a project. So that's what that is. There's also Talenta, which is another service that we have gone on and looked for people as well. So I think those are the two main ones in the European area. I don't know, do you guys have something like that similar in Israel?
Not really. Is it something you have to pay for it to be on it?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's free for me to use, but I think they pass on the fee to to the actors and the talent agents and the managers to use. So I don't know exactly what the fee is. I don't think it's horrible. I think it's based on how much material you put up. So like, it'll cost a certain amount if you just have your headshot and CV. But if you want to add a reel or extra pictures, then I think you have to pay a little bit more for that.
What was the second name?
Talenta.
Thank you.
It's like E and then Talenta. Spell it. So those are the two that we mostly used when we were casting outside of the United States. And then just, talking to agents and managers and getting ideas from them for folks. I will say on Homeland, we didn't really, there's an option on our breakdowns to either give the information just to agents or managers, or we can also open it up to all the actors. So like you could self-submit, right? But we didn't really do the self-submission ones because on average, we would probably get about 3,000 submissions per role just going through agents and managers. So, and the way the process works with 1 hour episodic television, you've probably got about 8 to 10 days in between each episode to cast. So you move very quickly. So if I opened up it to all the actors, then I can't even imagine how many submissions I would have to go through. So it wasn't a personal thing. It was just more of a time management thing. But that's not to say that I didn't also take advantage of doing searches by actors who weren't under representation, because sometimes I needed something very specific, a language or a certain skill set, like military training, whatever it is, one-arm juggler, just to make sure that I've covered myself with each project. So, that's the typical timeline in which we had to work through. But yeah, it's daunting.
And tell me something. If I want to do a self-tape, okay, at home, is it something that consider acceptable, or you have to go to someone who is professional? Does it matter?
Well, there are services here in the States where you can pay a little fee and they will have professional lighting. They'll sometimes provide you a reader and they'll tape it for you and send you the file. But I think that if you have a good camera and good lighting and good sound, you can do it by yourself. I mean, I've had people tape themselves, self-tape off of an iPhone, or, I have a Samsung Galaxy 9 or something, has a really good camera on it. So I think as long as those elements are clear, if you have good lighting and good sound and you have a reader.
What is a reader?
Somebody who reads the scene with you.
So is it acceptable that someone gives me the lines?
Yes. Yeah, you could grab your husband or your girlfriend, whatever. I mean, as long as they're, they give you enough to feed off of, but they don't distract. There have been times when I had one guy, I was evaluating self-tapes, and I noticed his reader was so loud and had this really thick accent. And I told him, I said, I found that a bit distracting because I'm trying to watch you, but I'm hearing this. And he said, well, I was stuck at a hotel and I grabbed the gardener. And I think he was like Cuban or something. So I think the guy just got so excited to read with him. So he was like, acting it out. So I just said that's where it could be an issue if the reader is putting too much into it, because it's not about the reader. But it's always helpful to have somebody in person to read with you. Some people have recorded their voices and then tried to play it off of a recording, or somebody's had somebody on the phone doing the scene with them. It's a little distracting. It's kind of hard to play it in real time, especially like if you've pre-recorded the other lines and you're trying to play it. It just feels weird. So it's always best if you can to, get somebody to read the lines with you. So in fact, now that everybody's in shelter now with my classes, a lot of people have been recruiting their girlfriends, boyfriends, wives, to read with them. They're like, I've never had to do this before, but now we're, stuck inside. And so apparently now I'm his reader. So that's been kind of funny. Yeah.
And there is a question here that Batel asking, does it if you have an agent in Israel, does it conflict with agent in the States, for instance?
No. A conflict?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not
if
at
I
all.
want to have an agent in the state, do I need a local agent, or what do I have to do?
Well, here's what I would say about representation in the United States. If you are not prepared to work, like if you don't have an O1 visa, passport, anything like that.
What is it? Just tell us what it is.
Well, a passport to travel.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of agents in the United States will probably be submitting mostly on things that shoot in the United States. So agents and managers are going to want to make sure that you're able to work, right? So if you're in Israel and you don't have a visa, an O1 visa, or in the United States, some companies want you to have a green card to work. We've never had that required of us, but we've always made sure that any actor we have is able to travel wherever we need them to shoot. So, you know, I've had people come over from, you know, Europe or the Middle East or whatever, to the States and say, you know, I'm looking for an agent. How do I get it? I'll say, well, do you have all these things? Oh, no, I haven't. I'm still applying and waiting. And I said, then there's no point. Nobody's going to even deal with you until all those things are set and you're ready to work. So it's not impossible, but it's just, here again, there's no, I can't do anything for you. I can't submit you on projects when you're not available to work. So, so that's something I would think about if you were looking to get any kind of representation here in the United States, is that you're going to have to do all that prep work before anybody's even going to talk to you about it.
So it's not enough to be a talented man or woman. You have to have all the documents, right?
It's, well, I mean, yeah, you have to be prepared to be able to travel and work, you know. When we shot in Morocco, one of the problems we ran into was everybody had to get a visa to travel to Morocco, no matter where they were from. And Morocco is only a one entry visa. So once you enter the country and leave, you have to reapply for a visa. And all those applications take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And there's no guarantee they'll grant you one. So like we had a situation, we had an actor that was a recurring role this season, and we couldn't take the risk of him leaving Morocco and then coming back for the next episode that he had to shoot. So we literally kept him there. We housed him and his family, and he had to stay. So that cost a little bit more money than we anticipated. But yeah, I think in general, if you want to open up that world a little bit more for yourselves, then you want to make sure you have all the documentation and paperwork ready to go anywhere. Now, if you're, you know, getting hired as an Israeli actor to work on a show that shoots in the United States and you are a series regular, there are certain production companies that will sponsor you and that can make that happen. They probably won't do it for any smaller roles just because it costs time and money. So there are exceptions to it for sure. But just to keep that in mind, you probably want to just go ahead and get your part of that work done, just to be ready to go.
But in Homeland, for instance, I know that there was an Israeli actress there, right?
Yeah, but she had the paperwork to travel and come back.
So she went to the States and came back to here, Israel?
Well, she didn't shoot in the States. She shot in Morocco.
Oh, I see. And
This
so
season,
you contact her agent or?
Huh?
Sorry, we didn't hear you again.
Oh, she came back from season 4. She was a character that was in season 4, and we brought her back. But yeah, she was based in Israel and then went, then we could fly her to Morocco. So she had all of her, you know, her passport and everything up to date. And then, like I said, our production got everybody their visas, and then they were able to travel them back and forth.
Okay. What I suggest, I have some more questions, but if you do have a question, just raise your hand so I'll be able to give you, Yael. Yeah, Yael, go ahead, wait. You can, yeah, go.
Oh, she's on mute.
Sorry, yeah.
Hi,
Bill.
Hi, thank you for talking to us. What I wanted to ask, and others are wondering, is once you, let's say you have an O1 visa, or you have a green card, or, you know, that thing is set. What do you have any recommendation on how to try and get an agent or representation in the United States? How to go about it? What should we do?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of agents and managers, you know, if you have their contact info, I mean, I've received them. Obviously, I'm not an agent, but I've received emails from people that live all over the world saying, "Oh, I'm an actor, and I'm, you know, keep me in mind for this or that." So, I mean, you could probably draft an email if you can get access to their email and submit your materials. But I think it's always best, quite honestly, if you make a plan and you're able, obviously not now, but if you were able to travel and make a trip to the United States and, you know, do a lot of that homework prior to that, try to set up meetings if they're taking meetings. Sometimes you can meet them in a class. Mostly casting directors teach classes, but some agents will conduct a class to meet new talent. So there's that way. I mean, it's hard. I'm saying you can email and stuff. I don't know how much they are paying attention to that kind of thing. You know, a lot of times I've found, at least in the UK, there were some actors that had US representation and UK representation. And so they kind of worked in tandem with each other, which kind of spread the net, obviously, further for those actors. How that happens, I can't be specific because I'm not sure. I have a feeling they've probably made those connections. And so if the UK agent has a client they feel very strongly about, they might talk with somebody in the United States, you know, do you want to sort of share this client? So it can happen. It's not, it's a little rarer in that regard. Like I said, I think you have to be at a certain status level for them to do that. But I've had to work with people that had both representations. Even people in the United States, some people have like New York representation, Southeast, Southwest representation. And that's more of a strategy for actors who are maybe still building their resumes and they want to spread the net wider, because in the United States, a lot of us deal with each other coastally, meaning New York, LA. So we kind of jump from one market to the other, but there's like a whole swath of, you know, talented actors that live in the Southeast or Southwest parts of the United States. And there are small agencies there that represent them locally. So if you're say you're building your co-star, it's helpful if you have agents that cover really the whole United States, so that you're getting submissions from all over. So we're not missing sort of the belly of America in that regard. And it's hard. I mean, I've gotten to know some of them because I've traveled there to, you know, meet them and work with their talent. But, it's a little disjointed because there's still a lot of people in the industry that think East Coast, West Coast, LA, New York. And so they don't know about all the other talent that's kind of spread out all over. And I think part of that is just, I think that those agents in the Southeast and Southwest have to make an effort to get their clients on the radars of us. Because a lot of people have, like I had a friend of mine, she was an agent in Florida, and she said, you know, I submit on all the big projects, you know, from New York or LA. She's like, and nobody ever opens my submission. Nobody ever, you know, asks my clients to tape. And I said, because they don't know who you are. All they see is Florida. They're used to doing LA, New York, LA, New York. So I said, you'd have to make an effort, maybe take a trip with your clients to New York and get some meetings and stuff, or get them on our radar. That's how I've met people. So it's a lot of different ways of going about it, but that's, I don't even know if I'm making sense or if I'm rambling at this point. So
No, you're making sense. Thank you.
it's just, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I taught in Turkey too, and Turkey is very isolated. And a lot of them are like, we don't get any work outside of Turkey. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, like, it's, all the markets are different, but I think what's wonderful also is that there's so many shows now that are shooting all over the world, that are covering world topics. Like, it's not, just America or just Israel or wherever. And so it has stretched us and forced us to go outside of our normal circles to find our talent. And that was,
as I recall, excuse me, just you told us on the last time you were here that there are special agents that are for the foreigners, right?
well, I mean, there are certain, I learned that when I first started casting Homeland and we had to reach out to the other markets. I mean, I was like a fish out of water because I didn't know any of them. But over time, you start to meet, get to know the agents and the managers there, and then you kind of know who to go to for certain actors, God, I'm blanking on her name, but we used to go through a woman in Israel and she passed away. I forgot her name.
Peri Kafri.
Yeah. Like, so we used Perry a lot, when we were looking for people. So I don't know, I'm trying to remember.
Was it intentionally or was it just, because you heard her name?
I'm trying to remember. It has been a while. Because people come to us differently. I mean, we've had, sometimes we might ask somebody that we know, like, do you know anybody in Israel? Or, who's a good contact for, we cast a lot of Afghani actors this season, and there's really no casting directors in Afghanistan. I mean, it's not a big market. So Howard Gordon, who was one of the co-creators of Homeland, and he had shot a show called Tyrant, and somehow he got connected with this woman who we ended up using as our point person in Kabul, and she helped arrange auditions for Afghani actors for us. So I mean, we just sourced out in different ways, and like I said, through recommendations, maybe, like there's a manager that has a lot of international clients, and we would say, hey, do you know anybody here we can connect with? Or so sometimes it's like a word of mouth thing, and just asking people if they've worked with somebody before. Rose Wicksteed, who is a casting director in the UK, we worked in tandem with her on this last season of Homeland. She was able to help us cover Europe and whatnot. And, she had contacts that we didn't even know about, so you just kind of build up on all this stuff depending on what your needs are.
Okay. Niva, you wanted to ask something? Wait.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're muted again.
Wait, sorry. Yeah.
And now?
No, you're okay.
Okay, perfect. So just wanted to say thank you so much for doing it.
Of course.
It's really, really interesting. So I'm represented with some.
לא שומעים אותך רגע. לא שומעים אותך, ניבה. ננסי שוב.
I think she's...
Oh.
שומעת? ניבה?
Okay. How about I Oh goodness. Okay.
ניבה?
One moment. Ken?
It's wonderful until it
זהו,
doesn't
עכשיו
work.
שומעים אותך. Now we are hearing you.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
No worries. It's we're talking in different countries. I get it.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite casting project and why?
Homeland was pretty good. I like them all for different reasons. Well, so I was a singer for a long time, and it's rare that I get to cast musicals, but there, years ago, I think 2006, we did a revival of the musical The Boyfriend, and Julie Andrews was directing it. So I was like that little girl inside being like, oh, I get to work with Mary Poppins. And she was lovely. And actually a funny story, she was showing us pictures of her grandchildren. And her first husband, they have divorced, but they were on friendly terms, and he was set designing for the production. So they were, cool with each other. And they started bragging about who had more pictures than the other. And at one point, Julie said something like, "Oh, fuck off." And it threw me, because I was like, that's Mary Poppins swearing. That was fun. I mean, that was just a fun project to work on. But honestly, I think I grew and stretched so much working on Homeland because of the uniqueness of our project, because we were shooting all over the world, and I had to find the actors wherever I could, and I was very privileged because it was so well received of a show, and so I could really get creme de la creme of an actor to read an audition. In fact, I would say up until this season, we almost never offered a role. Everybody had to read. The writers needed to hear their words. So I had some, maybe what you'd consider famous people read with, for me. So that was a little daunting, but thrilling. Like I remember when Costa Ronan came in to read for us, who played Yevgeny on our show. He had come right from the set of The Americans. So I had to stay late after work and wait for him. And he walked in, and he's very tall. He's, I think, like 6'3", 6'4". And I was just like, whoa, what a presence. And I remember when he read his scene, I was just, it's so seldom that I get like this, but I was trying to hide my face because I didn't want him to notice, like, I was like, my mouth was agape. I was just so like, and after he finished, all I could say to him was, "You are such a thoughtful actor." That was just the only word I could come out with. And he was just so nice and so gracious. And I was just like, there's nobody else for this role. You just know it, And he was such a delight to have on the show. And he's so humble, and, just love working with those kinds of people, just so talented. And so I've just gotten to meet some amazing actors that I probably wouldn't have met, or gotten to know. So I think Homeland's going to be the project for a long time that's going to stay with me. But thanks for the question. Yeah.
מעיין, את רצית לשאול?
Thank you.
רק רגע. Just a sec.
Oh, we have two Mayans.
מעיין סגל, נכון?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
I will move from the washing machine. Hi, my name is Mayan, and I wanted to ask, since I guess all of us are here are actors, that's looking forward for you to give them hope, basically, to be casted in a production, in a highlight production. I've been living in London for 2.5 years, and I have an agent there, and I have a European citizenship, and basically what I've learned that since I'm not a native, basically I'm always a foreigner. So the first thing I wanted to ask is basically if I'm trying to apply, or my agent or whatever is applying me for a breakdown, I will be cast as the foreigner, wouldn't I?
Well, can you be more specific when you say foreigner?
Not American,
Israeli,
not British.
Not Brit. Well, because you don't have a British accent.
it's like here in Israel, there is a huge complaint that the Arab actors are nothing but are always being casted as the terrorists, and you know that they don't have like more roles. It's like in the United States when you had black people, so they always were casted as a specific typecast, and only the recent years you see them like everywhere. So basically, my question is, A, statistically, how can I get to you? How can I get you to know me? And B, will I be casted just as a foreigner, or will I be a part of the whole society, or you know, I will have like a normal role?
Okay, so
when you see the Big Bang, you have the Indian, and you have, you know.
Yeah. I think that we have seen a lot of changes. I'm gonna say in the last 10, maybe even a little bit longer, you know, in casting in terms of diversity, opening up roles. I remember when I first started, I worked in commercials, and they would sort of pose the language of like ethnically ambiguous. That was the word that they used. So they meant sort of non-white, okay? A code word, right?
Non-Caucasian.
Yeah, they'll be like, we want ethnically diverse or ethnically ambiguous. That was another term. And then it became like the diversity thing has been a long time coming. And I think we're seeing it happen. And, but there's so many factors involved because, you know, where's the project set? You know, like, wouldn't you be upset if a character that I was casting was supposed to be Israeli and I used an American?
Yes, obviously, and I would be very upset if you wouldn't call me for an audition.
Of course, of course, I get that. But, you know, look, when people say like, I really want to work on American television, will my accent get in the way? It depends on the project, right? So a lot of foreigners, I think, have to work out an accent, like Rupert Friend on our show, Damian Lewis on our show, Miranda Otto. I mean, they came with British or Australian accents, but they could do an American accent so that they blended in. It's not rules I've made up, it's just the way it is, right? And then now we're into this sort of authenticity part of it, right? Where if maybe I needed somebody to speak Hebrew on the show. Now, some people can speak Hebrew, but that doesn't mean their native, you know, language is Hebrew, or they have a little bit of an accent in Hebrew, right? Which you guys would know.
Well, you took an Israeli actor for a Russian scientist. That was, I mean, the one of the films I cannot remember. There was an Israeli actor for a Russian scientist.
I did?
Professor. No, I'm telling you, the Americans. No, not you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't think so. Well,
No.
So my point is, like, when we were doing this season and we needed people that spoke Pashto, well, first of all, I didn't even know Pashto, okay? It's the tribal language of the Taliban. There are Afghani actors that can speak Pashto and Dari, but you can tell if they're not from the region. So we had to have somebody that also could be that filter for us and say, yes, he speaks fluent Pashto, but with a Persian accent, right? Now, maybe 20 years ago, we would have said, oh, fine, he could speak it, let him do it. But because everything is shown internationally now, you know, if somebody from Afghanistan was watching the show and they're like, no, he doesn't have the right accent, you know? I mean, I learned German, Italian, and French, okay? But if I speak it, you're gonna know as a native that I'm not from there. So, you know, now we're dealing with those aspects now of that authenticity and whatnot. And then, you know, we went through a time, I think, with even people's names. If your name was, you know, I don't know, Angelica Riboletto or something, right? Sounds very Italian. And a lot of people would say, oh yeah, they're Italian. Like, we need a more like neutral name, like Mary Jones, I guess, right? Now, you can't even base anything on that anymore, right? Because that Angelica girl can come in front of me and she's as American as they come. Just her parents named her this Italian-esque name. You were talking, somebody was talking earlier about, you know, Arabs being cast as like terrorists and stuff. I had a friend of mine who's Turkish, knew him in New York, and every time he went out for roles, it was the cab driver or the terrorist or those kinds of things. And he was getting a little frustrated about it. And he went out to LA, he got an agent, and actually got submitted on Homeland for something. And I looked at his first name and I was like, his name was Troy, but I know him as Turhan. So I emailed him and I was like, hey, Troy, what's up with the name? And he said, you know, it was my agent's decision that I should get a sort of a vanilla-esque name for my first name. And he said, ironically, because we made that change, now I'm going out for other roles, not just terrorists, not just, so there's still a mindset of people that get led by the name of somebody. But I think in our world today, there's so much diversity. There's so, you know what I mean? Like, you can't let that be the relying factor on whether or not somebody can do a role. There's a lot to it. So when you're saying like, am I going to be cast as the foreigner? I would say unless you could get an accent that could open up those roles for you, like an American role, then yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of a frustration because you have a name that leans you one way and then your accent on top of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But you know, that has nothing to do with your talent. I just think that there's people in the industry that they need to feel that authenticity. They need to know that you can break out of your accents. And the thing is, like, with, you know, I know there's different levels of like how strong your accents are in Israel. But like, I think it's probably a not too far of a distance to work that out in your accent as, say, somebody from Barcelona. You know, Barcelona, everybody talks right here, right? So they have to rework their entire mouth to get even somewhat close to a clean American accent. Germans are the same ways. You know, people in Northern Europe don't have as far of a distance to go. And I think because you guys, a lot of you are bilingual, you know, that you speak both languages, I just don't think the journey would be as difficult as somebody else coming from another part of the world. But I don't know if that helped you or not in answering your question.
So in order to widen the casting options, I basically have to work on my accent and my name.
Well, not so much your name. I'm saying that you've got, the name says one thing to some people and then you have the accent with it. So they're going to go, oh yeah, she's an Israeli actor, so we're going to keep her in the Israeli world. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you came in and spoke perfect American, they'd be like, oh, cool.
Okay. We'll
Thank
go
you.
on. Thank you. Chen. Okay.
What's happening?
שומע?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
What, I got to find you? Wave.
Here, Chen. He's
Oh, are you on another page maybe? Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Blue shot. I'm not sure.
תרים את היד, אז יתראה. You see him?
Hold on, because I have two pages here. Oh, is it Shen?
Chen, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the.
I didn't know we went to 2 pages. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's not Chen, it's Chen, but I wrote it in the German accent. In German. I want to ask you, we have, by the way, you can think of me as Grace. Grace is Chen. in Hebrew. So it's the same meaning.
Okay.
I want to ask you, because we got like around and around, I want to ask you about the casting work. When you see someone acting in audition or in self-audition, what is the main thing you are looking for? Except, of course, the character performance.
Well, I think from the moment somebody, if you come in for me, the moment you walk in, your audition starts.
Uh-huh.
So, what kind of person are you? What's your energy? In addition to wanting you to make some strong choices in your acting, I'm also assessing, are you the kind of actor people want to work with? Are you a pain in the butt?
You can say that by just exactly.
Well, do you waste a lot of time in the room? Or do you come in, are you prepared to get to the work, and then, hopefully we have time to adjust you. And then, of course, when you do your scene, I want to understand the choices that you make as an actor. What are you clear about where the scene is going? Are you clear about who your character is? So that's why we use the word strong choices. So if you came in and did a scene, and then maybe I asked you a question, what's the relationship? And then you said, well, I wasn't sure if he was my husband or my brother. Okay. Then I would say, and that's what I got, that you weren't sure. So make a choice. I can work with somebody if you make a choice, even if it's completely wrong, right? But when you come in and you're not sure yourself, that's the intention of the scene now. So that's why you have to be very careful and come in and make strong choices. And I understand, we try to give you as much information as we can before you come into the room, so it's really up to you guys and your craft to figure out, ask yourself certain questions about the scene. What does my character want? What is the obstruction that gets in the way of the want? What is the result?
The regular thing about character. What is the main tip you can give us about, go on a good audition? What is a success audition?
Come in. I ask you if you have any questions. A lot of times actors will say, I don't think so, unless there's something you want to tell me. And a lot of times I'll probably say, nope, let's see what you've done and prepared. And if we need to adjust or play, we'll do that. And you do the scene, and then I give you an adjustment. I might say, thank you very much. That's all I need. And then you leave. That's the best audition you could give.
What is the main tip you can give an actor to do a good audition? In order to do a good audition, what is the main tip you can give someone who wants to do a good audition, a good influence on you?
Well, I think exactly what I just told you. Just come in and be very clear about what your goals are, do them, and then leave. Be open to an adjustment if I need to give you one. And I have my reasons for doing that, which none you should be concerned about, because you don't have control over that. So it's just really coming in, making those choices, being flexible if I give you a direction. Sometimes I'm just seeing if you can take the direction. It doesn't mean that the choice you made in your first read was wrong. Sometimes I'm checking to see if you're locked in your choices, because I'm sure we all know actors that do it a certain way and they don't really have any wiggle room, and they work, but it's my job to know that. So if I'm telling my client, if you like what he's doing, that's great. Just know that that's all he can do. He's not going to be able to play and give you any more. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, it doesn't have a variety of actions on his playing.
I think
don't have a wide spectrum of.
Yeah, not everybody's Meryl Streep. Not everybody, some people just come in and they do that one thing really well, and that's okay. They work. But like I said, it's up to my, what I do to inform my clients that look, this is the only direction you're going to be able to take them. And that's, if that's what you want, you know that now, you know, where if you have somebody who comes in and you're like, hey man, they can give you this, they can give you this, they can give you this, you know, that's also, you know, that's really what you want, because it gives you room to play with scenes and such like that. So yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do is just, you know, come in and do your work, you know, and be very clear about it. You know, if you come in with the idea that you're going to try to show me what you think I want to see, that almost never works. You know, I like a confident actor who comes in and has already done that work, has asked those questions for themselves, and has made a clear goal in the scene of where they want to take this character.
Of course. Okay. Thank you.
You know what I mean? That's my favorite audition.
Thank you very much.